Welcome to the Remote Works Podcast,
discussing the culture, experience, and community surrounding remote work. I'm Ari Whitaker.
And I'm Jonathan Sharp. This is episode 4 with part 2 of our special guest, my wife, Erin Sharp.
This episode is sponsored by Cultivate Now. Cultivate Now cares about remote work and helping distributed teams thrive and individuals succeed with a remote career. To learn more, visit cultivatenow.com/RW.
So here we are, Ari, with another episode.
Yes, moving right along. Episode number 4.
So this one is part 2, if you're just tuning in, of part 1 of an interview that I did with my wife.
Yes.
Discussing remote work and how that impacts and affects a spouse. Which in my case, my wife and I have been married for 11 years and have been working remote for the past 8. So this kind of covers that topic. So in this part of the interview, we'll get into some more realistic discussion about how it's affected our relationship and the benefits from it and the downsides. So it's an interesting conversation.
Well, I just hope the benefits outweigh the negatives.
They do. I believe we did come to the same conclusion, but I think at times that does depend on the day that we're discussing it.
Sure. I understand.
So without further ado, here is the interview. So that kind of segues into the schedule and how that plays out for us. So there have been times where I've kept very traditional hours of 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And then other times where it's been a lot more fluid and flexible. Is there one that you have liked better than the other? What are your thoughts on the schedule?
Well, going back to my love for unpredictability and the passion of just flexible we're just rolling with what we got. I love that. Of course, there's both benefits and downsides to both sides, and I think the good one of the grand benefits of working from home generally is that your schedule has been able to be flexible with the needs of the family. So when Noelle was very new, you were able to help me survive a newborn. As Noelle has gotten older and she's at school during the day, we can hold a little bit more of the basic 9 to 5 kind of job.
Yeah.
The other huge blessing and asset I see in you working from home and being in a little bit more control of your schedule is that your schedule can adapt to my schedule. I work out of the home. I work at the same outdoor camp that my dad did. And so my schedule kind of changes and fluctuates throughout the year.
Season.
Yeah.
Seasonal.
In the summer, I'm very full-time. In the winter, I'm very part-time. And so in the summer, we kind of need Jonathan to be very present and very available. And because I work with horses, my schedule when I do work, whether it be the part-time or the full-time portion of the year, is very unpredictable. And while I love that, because it keeps work and life exciting, it can also put some strain on work schedules. But Jonathan, number one, is a very caring individual. And so if I tell him, hey, I need to come home an hour or 5 hours later than I thought I was going to, he's very gracious and does what he can to make that happen. And that's been a real asset for us and to me personally in my professional career to be able to continue to pursue the equine industry, be a mom, a wife, and just operate within that.
Yeah. It definitely became most apparent once we had kids.
Yeah.
And the benefit to it.
Yeah.
And when I was first starting out, post-college, we were in the Chicago area, and my daily commute was an hour and a half one way.
That was rough.
We were newly married at the time, and so that was 3 hours a day, and that was just brutal. That was soul sucking, and just would take the life out of you. And so that lasted about 9 months before we moved to Omaha, Nebraska.
Right.
To get out in the country a little bit more. And my commute then dropped to about 30 to 35 minutes. And so that was a huge breath of fresh air. And then once I started working remote, my commute dropped to 10 seconds. And so that has been a great asset of just recovering that time. One thing that's come about, though, is the fact that there is no preparation time for the day in getting into work and no debriefing time. Yeah. And I didn't realize how much that was a benefit to me until I started working from home. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, when it was time to be done and you're like, hey, you're done? I'm like, yep, I'm done. And you're like, okay, I need all these things, to help with and to engage with the family again. And I was still swimming from the work of the day that was going on. And so that was a little bit of a challenge, and really an effort of retraining myself to quickly engage with work and quickly exit work. Mm-hmm. And just one tip of how I exit work more quickly now is I'll spend about 30 seconds writing down the last thing I was working on and the last thoughts of the day. And that way I can come back to it tomorrow. But it helps to mentally free me and release me from having to process that. So the next big topic is our relationship.
Oh boy, here we go.
Here we go. So, like I said earlier, we've been married for about 11 years at this time. 8 of that has been remote work to some capacity. And relationships are work. That's just the nature of what they are.
Yeah.
But for me, in my perspective, I see it as having been a huge benefit over the past 8 years of working from home, because it forces you to continue working on that relationship. Mm-hmm. It's kind of easy when you're commuting to an office to leave whatever's going on at home and pick it up when you get back. But when you work from home, if we're having a disagreement or I did something that most husbands do, it gets me in hot water, we kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts about that?
I think a couple things come into play here. I think at least for me, commute time to and from work can be a time to kind of process as you're leaving home, to kind of process and put away the stuff of home that's on your mind and get to work and kind of be ready to just completely dive into. And there's stuff going on at home, but it doesn't matter because I'm here now. And then when you leave work, that commute time allows you to process, and that lack of process time, I think, can be a disruption to your work, in that if something's going on in the house, and it could be something as simple as our daughter tripped and stubbed her toe, and mm-hmm. suddenly Jonathan has to get up and go address that. Well, maybe you don't have to address it, but it's a loud enough commotion that you come out and check it out.
Make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, and so you kind of are dual working in that you are having to be present in one place fully and another place fully. And I
Yeah.
can see that is hard for you. It would be hard for me. I have on occasion had my daughter at work, and to be a mom and a boss and a leader is difficult. And so I see the strain of that on you sometimes is hard, and kind of swinging back to what does that do to our relationship and the addressing problems right away. I feel like sometimes the stress of balancing two places can be very heavy. And the emotions of work don't have time to disintegrate on the drive home. And so
Yeah.
often the emotions of work are brought to our household. They're just right there. They start in the room, and then the door opens and they come out. And I can only assume that it's the same way, going the opposite way. If stuff is hard at home, you don't have time to put that into its box and then go to work, because let's say you and I are having a disagreement. I am present within 50 feet, and so it's kind of a reminder, and it continues to cook and weigh on you. Now, one of the great things that comes with being married to such a great guy is he has been available most of the time to take a minute from work and be like, okay, we need to address this and take care of it. So, frankly, so you can be a better employee. You can get that crater off of your mind, per se, and create peace in the home, and create peace in the home so it creates an environment that is able to support a good work day.
I think that's definitely one of the benefits to our relationship is we are very proactive and very quick now at rooting out whatever disagreement or miscommunication happened. We don't let things fester for very long now. It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a huge benefit. And the other is just the time and presence of being around each other. Just good and bad.
Really, the toilet doesn't flush in our house without Jonathan and the people he's working with knowing it. So,
That's right.
we know each other pretty good.
That's right. That's real life. You're on a conference call and there flushes the toilet.
Yeah. Woohoo. Yep.
And it's usually important to clarify at that point on the call that you are not the one on the toilet. So, honing in on the theme that you mentioned before, it's really the collision of two worlds. There's work life that has invaded home with the level of communication and video calls and conference calls and all of that happens. And then it's the invasion of family and home life on work.
Yeah.
Because it's there. They're really co-located. And they're constantly intertwined. There's not really a way to easily separate the two.
Yeah, and it makes it pretty difficult when the work environment that you're working in is not very family friendly. And the truth is that I can't help that, but I can help making our home a work friendly environment. And so supporting you as a family and the needs of your work is really important, I think, for both peace of your work and peace for our relationship. And sharing that goal and responsibility and mission for our home with our daughter so she can own it too. So when you poke your head out of your door and say, hey guys, I need it really quiet, there isn't a reaction of resentment. There is more so a reaction of, hey, to be supportive of dad today, let's go outside and play so dad doesn't have to worry about the noise that we're making. And really, in the grand scheme of things, let's go outside. I'd rather be outside anyway. So just learning how to embrace that and to be supportive to you and your work, regardless of how work is supportive of home. You have always been supportive of our family, and we're learning more and more about how being supportive as spouses and parents and just a family unit as time goes by. But just really, really diving into that, because our relationship is definitely affected by your work, and your work is so affected by us. And regardless of what's happened at work, we need to make sure that we're being supportive of you.
Mm-hmm. And what is the impact been on Noelle, do you think?
I think her knowledge of business is probably beyond the average kid her age.
Yeah.
She kind of understands what the nuts and bolts of a workday look like. The discipline that is required to work when there are ample opportunities for distraction and maybe more fun things going on. And so I think it's been a really good example of discipline and passion and diving into things even when you're not in the mood for it. You've just been a good example of really good life skills. I think it has, I mean, there's two sides to every coin. There's definitely been some things that are unique to her and her life because her dad works from home. But I think the positives far outweigh the negative. It's so good for a little girl and pretty soon a little boy to be able to watch their dad be an honest, hardworking man. And see what that actually looks like. You know, it's one thing to tell your kids, this is how you be a good employee. Yeah. This is what you should be doing. It's a completely different animal. And I think more penetrating if they can see what that looks like.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And that's been a real awesome piece to her growing up years.
Very, very early on when she was an infant and a newborn and started crawling, very often she would be in my office and just playing, and she was a really happy baby. And so that gave you the freedom to have some personal time.
Personal time space. And then continue with my career, which is, first I'm a wife, second I'm a mom, third I get to have a career that I'm passionate about that honestly I wouldn't be able to have if you hadn't worked from home. When Noelle was little, I spent a lot of time traveling to clients' houses to trim their horses' hooves. And if it hadn't been for you at home, I probably would have never had that opportunity. And so that has been awesome, and has been truly a gift to me and my passion and my passion within my career.
Yeah. And so Noelle really has seen both of us working and carrying out a career.
Yep.
And then as she got older, one thing that I heard a lot from Noelle was, Dad, you have to work all the time. Dad, you're always working.
Yeah.
And then she got into kindergarten, and now she's in third grade. And she kind of realizes that, you've got to go to school. There's that. But then summer vacation rolls around. She gets out of school, and she goes, well, Dad, don't you get out of work for the summer?
Right, we wish.
I wish. And so for her, it's given her a greater awareness of what it's like once you grow up. And I think for us, we've really been driving home the point of just be a kid. Just be a kid. Don't worry about anything else. Enjoy what you have going on right now. Enjoy your friends. Learning and all of the interests that she has.
I think also another important thing that she has been able to witness, something that's important to us and our family, is the health of our family as a unit. And we talked a little bit before about how we support each other. And so relationally, she's gotten to see real up and close and personal us work through things, but she's also seen your career support my career and my career support your career, and both of us working hard to be flexible around each other so we can both fill the needs of our jobs and do what we felt we needed to do to be good employees of our jobs. I think that's been really important too.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a moment here and kind of, if we could itemize kind of the pros and cons, or the benefits and the impacts. And I'll cherry pick one here. I think one of the top benefits for me is our relationship and our marriage, and how much stronger it is having worked from home.
Yeah. The whole don't let the sun go down on your anger. Well, don't let a moment go by on your anger when you can work from home, because it pops up.
Yep.
And I'll be at work in another 15 minutes because I need to address the fact that I left a cup in a place I shouldn't have, or what, who knows, you name the thing, whatever that is.
That was just a hypothetical there.
Yeah, right. Yes, of course. I think that is a positive. The health of our relationship, both between husband and wife, as well as father to daughter and mother to daughter. I think those elements have benefited. I think one of the downsides of working from home, and we kind of touched on how the stress of work can come into the home, but I think something that we didn't touch on was how when you're contracting, contracts can last a week, they can last a day, they could last a year, but there is a fairly high turnover. There's depending
shifting
on the job, there's shifting.
At some point, the contract will end.
Right. And it's not the long-term 5-year generally plan to be at one place. I've never heard of a contract lasting like 10 or 20 years. Maybe it's happened, but I am not familiar with it.
Very rarely.
The stress and the unfamiliar ground of starting a new job feels very much like every time you start a new contract. You're getting used to the people and the way things are run and what's expected, and what are some things that they really don't focus on, and where are things where they won't let anything slip. It's all of the normal. I just started this job and I am adjusting. And so that comes up often. And as a wife, I find that I need to find in myself a lot of grace for that, because a stressed out man is something to tangle with, and to just be supportive and understand that that is going to be a common occurrence because of the type of career Jonathan has chosen, and truly how that Jonathan and myself have chosen, because we chose it as a couple. And so that's just one of the pieces that comes along with it.
Yeah. I think a benefit for me that I see is we have 3 dogs, and they are coworkers of mine. I love having them around. They help keep me normal and sane, and I love having them around. So that's a benefit to working from home.
Bring your dog to work day every day.
Every day. I know a number of places offer that, but I have it guaranteed pretty much.
Right? And all 3 at once.
That's right. Okay, so if someone were currently working in an office and had a commute and that type of thing, and we're in the process of transitioning to working from home, what advice would you give them?
Okay.
And what is something that they should expect?
Okay. I would, truthfully, what I would tell them is throw away every notion and idea you have about working from home, and don't listen to people who have never worked from home's opinions of people who work from home. It can be very hard and judgmental, and they've never done it. They can't understand it. I can't expect them to understand it. And when they're like, yeah, your husband basically doesn't work, he can do whatever he wants to when he wants to, are all completely inaccurate comments. But I hear them all the time. And it's not just regarding you, it's just regarding anyone who works from home.
Yeah.
But, anytime there is an area of lack of knowledge, things are said that are untrue. And so just being able to hear that stuff and just let it roll off your back.
Yep.
The other thing I would say is be flexible. both with the schedule that is about to happen and how it will change all the time, and the needs of the person who is working from home, because they'll change all the time. Contracts may end, or maybe they'll need to travel this week, and then the travel date gets moved. It's all that normal stuff. You're just very much a part of it because it's in your home. And so and have grace for the people that your husband works with who are in your home, and giving them space to just be exactly what they're supposed to be. And the best thing you can really do is stand behind your husband or your spouse who's working from home 100%, regardless of the situation.
Yeah, I would say the advice that I would have is expect it to be more intense. There are some very intense office situations, but for me, I found that working a full 40 hours from home, there was a greater level of responsibility, I felt. And I have been more productive, and I have advanced my career faster, I think. And that responsibility is a heavy one. And so be quick to nip any distractions. So the final question is, what are our future plans with working remote and some of the things that we have coming in this next year?
Well, first of all, I've learned of being a spouse of someone who works from home is plan to have the unexpected, but some things that we do expect is we have a little boy that is due to make his arrival on May 4th. And so I think that will have a huge impact on working from home. But the good news is Jonathan has been hard at work in creating and building an office that is probably the best space that you will have worked in since you started working from home, because you designed it with working from home in mind. And so while the distraction level is about to increase, I think maybe it will be muffled a little bit by the ideal working space from home.
Yep. Those are the two big things that we have coming in this next year. So we're expecting a baby boy, as Erin mentioned, which we're very grateful for. And along with that, I had started renovating a portion of our basement and building a home office down there prior to us getting pregnant. So it was actually very fortunate that I started that process before we found out, because I would have been a little bit stressed. But it'll be a wonderful space. And it's like Erin said, it was really dedicated to being a home office. I actually have an on-air light that I'll be able to turn on outside each door. So he can throw
away his handwritten signs that he puts on the doors of our house. So as I come home, I can see that he is, in fact, on air, and I need to stomp quietly as I enter the home.
That's exactly right. Now it will be a lighted professional sign. So this wraps up this interview. And thank you so much, Erin, for sitting down with me.
It's my pleasure.
Jonathan Sharp here, and I have the opportunity to sit down with my daughter, Noelle. Say hi.
Hi.
How old are you, Noelle?
I am 8.
And in your 8 years of life, how many of those years have I worked from home?
About
all of them.
Yeah, technically.
All of them. That's right. So recently you and I were talking, and you kind of thought that all dads worked from home. Is that the case?
Nope.
So what's it like having your dad work from home?
It's fun to have you home when I need you.
Yeah, when you need me.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you get sick at school or something and you need someone to come pick you up, I'm pretty close, aren't I?
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges though with having me work from home?
Sometimes I need to be really, really quiet because my room is so close to your office.
That's right. Do I have to be on call sometime?
Yeah, you do.
So do you know what it is that I do from home?
You work on software and you tell the computer what to do technically.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's pretty spot on. So thumbs up or thumbs down about me working from home?
Sometimes it's thumbs up, sometimes it's in the middle. It matters what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Is it ever thumbs down?
It really matters if I have to be super quiet and I'm just sitting in my room bored. Sometimes that happens.
That does happen. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Give me a fist bump.
Ooh.
Boom. What do I tell you every morning when I drop you off at school?
Go be awesome.
And then what do? Fist bump?
Boom.
There you go. Okay, and that wraps up that interview, and it was fun to hear that clip from my daughter Noelle there at the end. She is very excited about obviously me working from home, and even more excited about this podcast. And it's been fascinating to watch her watch us as we've been recording over and things coming together and just talking about what a podcast is. And so it's been great getting her on for a little clip.
Yeah, it's she's going to be able to say years from now that she had her podcast debut at age 8.
Yes, she did. Which it'll be cute years from now to hear her voice still at that stage of life. So in the next portion of the show called What's the Buzz, we discuss things of interest. And Ari, why don't you kick us off for this segment?
Well, sure. I've come across a website that a friend of mine's been working on building out. It's called booklikeaboss.com. It's really great, especially if you're really starting that side hustle or some kind of freelance work. It's an opportunity for people to go, pull up the website, and you can create your own custom book page. It's book.me/whatever you have for your URL. And you can go there if you have a work from home business or a work online or whatever kind of business it is you're trying to build out. It's a great opportunity for people to book time with you. And initially it is free to start out for the first few appointments. And then once you get it rolling, if you like it, they're going to ask you to start paying. But it's a free to start, and I really like what it's got to offer. I'm looking to get my own page set up there right now.
That's really cool. So like what's a ideal business that would benefit from it?
There are so many different things. I can think of consultants who want to book appointments for, little initial interviews back and forths. If you want to schedule time, if you want to book time, say, sell time to go and have advice sessions or whatever you want to call it, you can have those. I know that people have used it also for businesses, little home businesses or little small businesses like, say, massage therapy. You can schedule your appointments through there, through your own thing. It does everything. You can list out your available times, what kind of packages you offer, and people can pay you straight there through the page. So it's an all-in-one, all-inclusive package. Scheduling, all kinds of different packages, and of course the payment processing is all right there in the page.
Oh, that's really slick. I'll have to definitely take a look at that. So that's booklikeaboss.com, right?
Yes, it is. And they're continuing to expand it out. They have, I think, now they've put a video on the page to help you out, get things going. There's all kinds of analytics that you can do now, so you can track who's visiting, what they're clicking on, where they're going, just like you would with any website with Google Analytics. And just there's all kinds of customization that you can do, and they're just continually building out a really great system. So highly recommend it.
That's great. That's cool. So for my buzz this week, in the news, there has been discussion in France that they're looking to make it law so that you can be off when you're not at work. And what that means is like you're not obligated to respond to email or phone calls. And it'll be interesting to see how this law develops, because for some businesses and some roles in a business, that would be a significant challenge, I think. So one that immediately comes to mind is being a sysadmin.
Sure. I mean, being in that business myself, I can't tell you how many times I think of myself as just being on call 24/7 because, well, it's, especially when I'm working a small operation, I might be one of a couple or the only guy who knows certain parts of the business.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I think there's definitely strong benefits to it, to help put some guardrails around some of that. But at the same time, we have a long history of seeing laws implemented that really miss the intent. The
Sure.
intent was good, but the implementation went wayward.
Now, on that law, just my initial understanding of that was that it was going to be an enforced law, meaning the company was not allowed to have anything to do with you outside of those hours. Now I'm getting to understand that it's an opt-in from the employee's point of view, which sounds a little more workable for a sysadmin and such things.
Yeah, and I hope that the end result of it is that it more ends up having a company being required to have a policy of describing what it is that they can do, and both sides being able to agree to that, because that's what it really comes down to. Thank you for listening to the Remote Works Podcast. This podcast is only half of the conversation. The other half is from you, our listeners. We love our listeners and your questions, and you can leave us a voicemail in your own voice that we may incorporate into a future episode at remote.works/voicemail.
The show notes with links to resources along with a full text transcript of this episode is available at remote.works/4 for episode 4. If you'd like to sponsor an episode or recommend a guest or topic for the show, visit us at remote.works.
Finally, until next time, I say to you, go be awesome. Thank you for listening. This is the Remote Works Podcast. This podcast is a production of and copyright Cultivate Now. All rights reserved.